So there's that. And so I'm going to let you figure out how to do, actually, wait, I can't do that because it's confusing. So on the delay send, we're going to go to mod delay 3. And for this one, it's tempo synced. So 72 BPM synced. And we're going to do eighth note, so it's a pretty quick delay time. And like if we do whole note, you see we've got 3.33 seconds, which is stupid slow. So if we set it to quarter note and we send the sends for my, let's do the piano lead. Actually, I'm going to copy this reverb over, copy it over, copy it over. Now I need to turn it down. I don't want that much. Down, down. Actually, that one's probably fine. That one down. Okay, the lead line, it's really important, but I also like it to have a lot of effect on it, so that's why I did it that way. Now here's bus 2. Let's turn the delay up. All right, so let's listen to this delay. And the reverb. Okay, yeah, let's check it out. Okay, so not great. Now if we go to eighth notes. And then if we wanted like a U2 sound, we could add a dot. All right, so there's that. So let's hear what it sounds like in the context of the whole mix. Here we go. Okay, so it was really nice when it was the slow moving hits, but then when you hear the do 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 do, it's not quite fast enough and it just muddies things up. That would be a reason for automation, which we can talk about later. So yeah, so just play with that. Again, mix to taste with that. I'm gonna turn this, make it go away, no send. All right, so there's that. Now let's briefly go through the compressor. If we click on a compressor, what I click on piano here. All right, so this is an understanding of the compressor. There's a couple ways to read it. The important thing to know is color matters. So this arrow, this orange arrow, is the threshold, which is related to this orange knob, which is this vertical line right here. So we can change the threshold either by moving the arrow or by turning the knob, and we get a decibel count there depending on what we want to do. The knee here affects how gentle the slope is of the compression effect. So 30 decibels makes it super rounded, so really compression begins even here and continues all the way up there, versus very hard knee, which is basically not a right angle, but like a very harsh angle. There's no sloping at all. Our attack, release, and ratio, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Sidechain we will get into at a later time, and the most important feature is gain reduction and gain right there. So if we set our threshold down super low, and let's set our ratio up really high, and our attack is fine, and our release is really slow, just watch this gain reduction here. Surely my God is in this place. Surely. Wow, great. That was too harsh, so let's try it again. Let's move the threshold up. Surely my God is in this place. Surely. All right, so that was, say, 5 decibels. So that gain reduction meter can tell you how much you want to boost your gain back up. Now you see we've clipped here, so probably don't want to turn it up that much, but that can give you a good starting point. So I encourage you to mess with the ratio, the attack, the release, just in case you're unsure about release. So when this ratio thing is set, when your attack is set, all that, when the compressor is activating, right, then in and out, you see the levels change, and then the gain reduction. The release really just determines how quickly that gain reduction makes its way back up to 0. So 384 milliseconds, a third of a second, is actually a pretty slow release time. Alright, so let's go down more. Turn that up on the piano track. Okay. And if I make the release super slow, 2 seconds. So you see how much slower that returns back to 0. Keep it up 4 seconds. Alright, and then we take it all the way down to like 10 milliseconds. So you see that really affects the gain reduction. So I'll let you play with that and see how that sounds to you. But that's a general overview of the compression. And now for the EQ, which I'm sure that you guys are super curious about. I'm gonna click on this and hit bypass, so we're not dealing with that. And EQ. All right. So again, this should be something that you're generally very familiar with. This button here, if you ever see it, that's our phase invert. It just takes the signal and flips it on its head, which is kind of advanced for, like if we have certain waveforms that are messing with each other and causing weird phasing sounds, like comb filtering or whatever. Okay, high pass filter is right here. You have to turn it on by engaging the in button. 6 decibels per octave. Just this knob says how harsh or gentle that slope is, so we can turn it all the way up to 24. And if we move this up, you can see it's a very harsh slope versus back down to 6 where it's very gentle. But a high pass filter, you guys should know what that's about. And then our low frequency, I'm going to turn this off right now, is a shelf. See, it creates a shelf, but you can make it, I think that's called a notch. I hope that's called a notch. Anyways, like our basic kind of band boost there that we're used to. And here is our Q right here. And when it's at 1, that means that this range of frequencies spans approximately 1 octave. So yes, you can turn all those on and off. Low frequency and high frequency both have the option to shelve, as opposed to being just a strict band. And then there's a low pass frequency, which you guys may not be super familiar with, but it's just the opposite of a high pass frequency. So there you see it's cutting everything down. You can use these knobs, or you can just click and drag up here, however you want to do it. So just make it happen. Notice in our DSP windows, there's presets, and you can hit factory default. One thing that you could start is, if you go to acoustic piano and say add detail, okay, so it boosts 6 decibels at 4.5 kilohertz, and what does that sound like, and things like that. So sometimes if you don't have a place to start, any idea with how to do it, start with presets and just see what they're doing and see if you agree with it, see if you don't agree with it. That's a really great way to start getting your hands dirty with mixing. But also just keep in mind, if you think it sounds good, don't mess with it. You don't have to mess with things if they sound good on their own. Everything is a tool, but just like you don't need a hammer in every situation, you don't need all of your EQs or compressions or whatever in every situation. Now, I do want to point something out, and that is the input and output. So that is like, say we boost, well, let's just go back to, here's 4.5 kilohertz, and the Q was 0.3, and boosted 6 decibels. All right, so that, 6 decibels of boost is actually technically 6 decibels of boost, just to select frequencies, but this is a pretty wide range of frequencies. So notice the in is what this DSP receives, and that is after the compressor. So if you don't reset the gain, Or like if the compressor makes things really quiet and you don't like boost the gain back up, then you'll notice that this in is really quiet, but it's bypass, so it should be, I think, right around minus 13 or so. Huh, remember that time when I said it should be right around minus 13 and I was off by 10 decibels? Brilliant. Okay, but did you notice that the in was quieter than the out? And that's because you do have a boost. Now, it wasn't 6 decibels quieter, but it was quieter than the output because after it is affected through the equalizer settings, then you get the output. So if you have another thing coming up, or you're just super stickler about gain, which I think you should be, then you have the option of turning it down some so that you get all of the effects but no additional loudness. And that's really handy because really the only thing that you want to worry about with loudness is the faders. Like you just want to adjust loudness there. And then the meters and all that stuff, and you want that to be accurate. So bypass that. There we go. That's a general overview for Pro Tools. You can right click on these tracks, or you can double click on these colored tracks and change colors. You can double click on this part and change their names or add comments. Live it up. And then when you're done with all of your mixing, you go to File, Export Audio Mix, and make sure that everything is, I guess, unselected, or everything is totally selected. Nothing is soloed, whatever. And then you just have to sit and wait, and you listen to it, and it will write the song to your machine like it's a tape deck, which is a little unfortunate. I do hate that you're going to have to sit there for 5 minutes and listen to your mix again while it bounces or exports. But then there you go. And when you have finished a mix, I encourage you to upload it to Slack so that the rest of us can analyze it and say, hey, I think that this is good, or wow, that is not so great. And that you can be learning from that without the pressure of live sound. So there you go. Hope this helps. I'm going to be sending you some multi-tracks shortly. All right. Bye.